This Facebook Live. It's our first installment of Green and Gold Live with the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrabee. We're asking you for your questions. We're going to have these every week after a Packers game. We're going to chat with Wayne right here on Facebook Live for a more in-depth look at some of the highlights of the game. And
Sure.
Thanks so much, Wayne, for being with us.
Good to be with you.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that I'm looking at the questions that are coming in, and I can't see all of them, but we are getting a lot of questions about the game. First of all, Verdon wanted to know, are there any new injuries to report today after what happened yesterday?
Sam Shields late in the game went out with what was, and they were checking him for a concussion. As they left the stadium, they weren't sure what the situation was there. If he suffered a concussion, it would be his fourth. He had one in college. He's had a couple of more with the pros, including one last year that knocked him out for about 3 or 4 weeks. So hopefully that's not the case, but he is in the, from what I understand, he'll probably be in the concussion protocol program.
And speaking of injuries, it was so great to see Jordy Nelson back on the field, making that catch from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because we talked about it. You know, Jordy got no time in the preseason. Aaron played a handful of plays in the preseason. So you had to figure that although these guys worked on the side, there's no question it was going to take time in a game, because working on the side, timing on the side in the passing game is one thing. Doing it in the game is another. There were a couple of instances there where one misread the other and the pass was incomplete. But, boy, nice to see the touchdown to the back of the end zone. On that drive, Jordy caught 3 passes, drive in the second quarter, caught 3 passes on that drive, and I think for the first time got into the offense.
And Aaron Rodgers did a fairly good job. I mean, it's the first game of the season of getting the ball around. I mean, he had several different passers that he was throwing to.
Oh, yeah, they spread the ball around really well, and I think they had to, because, you know, we talk about substitutions on a big day, a hot day like this. When you look at this, 2, 4, 6, 8 receivers, 8 different receivers caught passes. Cobb and Nelson were the 2 primary receivers, 17 targets to them out of 33 passes. So, but you're right, Susan, they spread the ball around. That's when they're at their best, when they spread the ball around, and you can't key on any certain receiver. But you're also right in that, and I'm surprised you haven't used your line. Usually when you come in here and the Packers struggle to get a win, Susan always says to me, well, that was an ugly win. And I always say to Susan, well, there's no such thing as an ugly win,
true,
right?
Especially on the road.
But, you know, the fact is that this offense, and the reason it didn't look quite as good is because this offense is not quite there yet. And it's opening week of the season, and they were shaking off some rust and getting their timing down. And Rodgers talked after the game about the miscommunications they had in that loud and hot environment.
Yeah, he was mentioning like half of them thought they were going to run, the other half thought they were going to play. That was
one of those plays,
points that he
exactly.
brought up as the miscommunication.
Those are things they'll all iron out. They will get to that stuff. They will get those things corrected. There's no question about that. But it does take time, and it takes game action. And but hey, you come out of a game like opening week, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how you're going to play, because nobody's played a whole lot during the preseason. To come out and get a win on the road, that's really key.
All right, so I'm still monitoring our Facebook feed, so please continue to send your questions to us for our Green and Gold Live chat with Wayne Larrabee. And Marcus, if you can hear me in there, I'm not able to read these questions that are coming in, so if you could share with them in my ear, that'd be great. So in the meantime, we'll continue chatting here.
We're improvising. It's live Facebook TV, yes.
Well, this is the first one of the season, so just like the Packers, a few kinks to work out.
Yeah, we're working it out. See, we didn't get enough time with this in the preseason. Matter of fact, we got no time in the preseason. We're kind of like an NFL football team. Got very little time in the preseason to work this out.
How did you like Eddie Lacy yesterday?
I thought Eddie played well. I really did. You know, again, they were geared up to stop him. There's no question about that. But I've seen this in camp with Eddie. People keep focusing on his weight. How many pounds does he weigh? And all that. Who cares? Eddie's in better shape. What I see with Eddie Lacy is the power is there, but I see more of a suddenness to his game, and we certainly saw that early in the ball game on that first drive, the 9-yard, third down, 9-yard run that he made to keep the drive alive, and then the 28-yard run late in the third quarter after Jacksonville had been worn down a little bit. Eddie busted it for 28 yards off the right side of the offensive line. I thought those are key plays for the Packers in the running game, and Eddie was equal to the task.
And you know how you were mentioning the offense, you could tell it was game one. The defense, though, came out, played really well.
The defense played really well, Susan, especially against the run. I think to be a good defense, you've got to be good against the run. I really do. And the Packers were awfully good against the run yesterday. Jacksonville tried to run the football. They didn't have Chris Ivory, one of their lead backs, but T.J. Yeldon, who's an outstanding emerging second-year running back, tried 21 times, gained all of 39 yards in that ball game. And I thought the Packers, especially in early down yardage, they were resolute against the run, very tough, gave up just 1.8 yards rushing per carry. And the fact that Jacksonville, again, Bortles threw for 320 yards, but they were one-dimensional. You can defend a team that is one-dimensional.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about Eddie Lacy, because Tom wants to know what kind of season do you think he's going to have overall then?
Well, I think if he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a very good season. I think you could expect a season somewhat, Tom, like maybe 2 years ago, 2014, his rookie year, 2013. I think he can do those things, and I think today he's a better receiver. We didn't see it in the ball game yesterday necessarily, but he's a better receiver now than he was as a rookie and second-year player.
All right, so Tony wants to know, all right, that guy Josh Sitton, how do you think the Packers did without him?
Well, you know, Lane Taylor, I can only say what Mike McCarthy said because I haven't ground down the tape, you know, and talked to my unnamed NFC scouts. But I will say this about Lane Taylor, as Mike McCarthy said after the game, there were no glaring issues. I mean, he may have missed. I remember Larry McCarron saying something. He missed a block maybe on Malik Jackson once. Malik Jackson's a $90 million defensive tackle, okay? He's supposed to win a couple of those matchups in there. I thought Lane Taylor.
Move to the phone because now we've got the questions on the phone.
All right.
All right. So
see,
Shane,
you're making in-game adjustments.
Yes.
This is what we do.
Improvising. All right. Shane wants to know, what do you expect from Davante Adams? He did have a fantastic catch, right, for a touchdown, but he had some frustrating moments too. Yeah.
Well, you know, his training camp was good. I thought Davante Adams played really well at training camp. We saw he played a little more confidence. He had more, you know, the ups and downs. He's going to drop a couple of passes here or there. But the thing about Davante that he can bring to this offense, he can make tough catches in traffic. And that catch on the goal line, that touchdown reception he made on the goal line late in the first half that gave the Packers the lead for good, that was the kind of play we know Davante Adams can make. And I think the kid just needs a little bit of confidence. He needs to stack some success, have a good game at Minnesota, and I think he'll be off and running.
Well, he looked like he got some confidence after that touchdown with the pad to the shoulders. Right, he tapped himself. Caleb wants to know, how about Jordy's health? I mean, we saw him yesterday. We don't want anything else to happen to him because it's so great to see him again. You think he looked pretty good? I
think he was fine. Yeah, I think he shook off some rust, some communication problems every once in a while, but he was targeted 9 times. He had 6 catches in the game, just 32 yards, but that's fine. Made a diving catch back into the end zone, and I thought that was spectacular. That was the return to Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson that we knew and loved in the 2014 season.
Yeah, I mean, but it's going to take him a while to get back into 100%.
It'll take a while, and also for the timing between he and Aaron and the communication. I mean, understand, this is pro football, folks. The receiver is reading the defense the same way the quarterback is. If they read it differently, that's when you get the incompletions and sometimes an interception. But I think they'll be on the same page going forward, no doubt.
All right, so Ryan has a question about Ty Montgomery. He seemed absent yesterday. What do you see his role being in the offense?
Well, I think, number one, he will play a role in this offense, no doubt about it, but he is back primarily on kick returns, and they kept booming the ball through the end zone. So I'm looking at my stat sheet here. I don't think the Packers had it. Montgomery had 1 kickoff return for 14 yards in the game. That was it. But I think you'll eventually see him get mixed into that offense as they go along.
All right, so we're 1-0. We have Minnesota coming up on Sunday. Try not to get too overconfident with the issues they're having at quarterback right now with the Vikings.
You know, Susan, I was talking to some people earlier today. It's interesting about Minnesota, and we'll attack this during the scouting report later on this week here on today's TMJ4. This is not like Minnesota losing Bridgewater. That's a terrible blow. No, don't get me wrong. And he's a good, young, up-and-coming quarterback in this league. Rodgers, because regardless of whether it's Bridgewater or Sam Bradford at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, that team is built to win on defense. And how do they win? Yesterday, they won on defense. The defense scored 2 touchdowns, 1 on an interception by Kendricks, the linebacker, another by Danielle Hunter on a fumble return for a touchdown. That team is all about defense. They get steady play at quarterback. They've got the best running back in the league, better weapons at outside and at wide receiver. They're still going to be a load, and they're still, I think, a team to contend with in this division.
All right. Okay, so a question about Jake Ryan looking faster from Facebook Live.
Jake Ryan, you know, he looks good. He looks fine. He missed a good portion of training camp. A little bit worried about that. But nonetheless, I thought yesterday he and Blake Martinez, we're talking about two young linebackers. One's a rookie, Martinez. The other's a second-year player in Jake Ryan. I thought Ryan did really well in filling the hole at the point of attack, made several key hits in the running game. I think he's going to be fine. Why does he look faster? Well, I think part of it is because he's a second-year player. Sophomores look faster than freshmen, and he's now a sophomore in their defense, and I think he's going to play really well this year. They like those young linebackers.
All right. Well, Wayne, it's always a treat to have you. Thanks so much.
Good to be here.
Us.
This was fun.
Yeah, how about this Facebook Live stuff?
I kind of like this, although I don't have a face for books.
Yes, you do. Well, thanks so much. So we'll see you after the Vikings game next week.
You got it.
All right. And thanks, everybody, for your questions today. Thanks so much for joining us on Facebook Live for Green and Gold Live.